What would you do if your husband called you worthless in front of a judge, mocked your thrift store clothes, and tried to steal your daughter, all while
Miss
his
Claire
mistress
Bennett?
watched from the
Yes, that's
back
me.
of the courtroom smiling?
I've been instructed to serve
Most
you with
women
these
would break.
custody
Claire
papers.
Bennett did something different. She stayed silent. She let him win. She let the whole world believe she was a broke, desperate housewife with nothing to her name. But here is what nobody knew.
Please don't take
While
my
Derek
daughter.
Bennett was
It's
busy
okay,
destroying
sweetie.
her
We're just going for a
reputation,
little ride.
Claire was hiding a
Mommy,
secret worth
Mommy, I wanna
$847 million.
stay.
A secret she built with her own hands, one sleepless night at a time, while he thought she was playing solitaire. This is not just a revenge story.
I missed
This
you
is a
so
survival
much.
guide for
I
every
missed you
woman
too,
who has ever been
sweetie.
underestimated,
Everything is gonna be
dismissed,
okay now.
or told she was nothing without a man. Stay until the end, because the moment that satisfies judge opens that sealed financial envelope will give you chills. If you have ever felt invisible in your own marriage, this story is for you. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been underestimated? I read every single one. Now let us begin. They say the courtroom is where the truth comes out. But for Derek Bennett, it was where his empire crumbled. He thought he was discarding a broke, useless wife. He mocked her thrift store clothes. He laughed at her silence. He told the judge she could not afford a decent lawyer. But Derek made one fatal mistake. He never asked what his wife did at 2 in the morning while he was sleeping. Stay tuned, because what happens when the judge opens that sealed financial affidavit is not justice. It is a masterclass in karma that cost one man everything. The smell of pancakes filled the tiny apartment on Morrison Street. Claire Bennett stood at the stove, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, watching the batter bubble and rise. Behind her, 7-year-old Lily sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs and humming a song from her favorite cartoon. The kitchen was small, the appliances were old, the linoleum floor had seen better decades. But the refrigerator door was covered in Lily's artwork, bright splashes of color that made the cramped space feel like home. Claire flipped a pancake onto a plate shaped like a butterfly and carried it to her daughter. Lily's eyes went wide. "Mommy, it has chocolate chips," Claire smiled. "Special pancakes for a special girl." She kissed the top of Lily's head, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo. These were the moments she was fighting for. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Claire glanced at the screen, angling it away from Lily's curious eyes. The email was from the Lumina Strategies Board of Directors. Contract finalized. $2.3 million quarterly payment confirmed. The Henderson Corporation deal was done. Claire allowed herself one small smile. 3 years of building. 3 years of working in the shadows while the world thought she was just a struggling single mother. 3 years of turning her marketing expertise into a consulting empire that Fortune 500 companies trusted with their most sensitive strategies. $847 million. That was what her company was worth now. That was what she had built from nothing, one laptop and one sleepless night at a time. "Mommy, why are you smiling at your phone?" Claire quickly pocketed the device. "Just a funny message from Aunt Maya, sweetheart. Eat your pancakes before they get cold. If you have ever had a secret you could not share, something you built in the shadows because the world was not ready to see you shine, you understand that smile. You understand the weight of carrying a hidden victory while everyone around you assumes you are losing." The knock came at exactly 8:15. Claire froze. She was not expecting anyone. The landlord had already collected rent for the month. Maya always called before coming over. Another knock, harder this time. "Stay here, baby." Claire walked to the door, her heart already sinking with premonition. The man on the other side wore a gray polo shirt and carried a thick manila envelope. His face was professionally blank. "Claire Bennett?" "Yes." He thrust the envelope into her hands. "You have been served. Have a nice day." The door closed. Claire stood in the hallway, staring at the package like it might bite her. She already knew what it was. Somewhere deep in her bones, she had been waiting for this moment. She opened the envelope. The first document was a divorce petition. That was expected. Derek had been threatening to file for months, ever since she refused to sign over her savings account to help fund his company's expansion. But the second document made her blood run cold. Emergency motion for temporary custody. Petitioner requests full physical and legal custody of the minor child based on respondent's financial instability, erratic behavior, and inability to provide a stable home environment. Claire's hands started shaking. Derek was not just divorcing her, he was trying to take Lily. The hearing was scheduled for 72 hours from now. Mommy, Lily's voice drifted from the kitchen. My pancakes are done. Can I have more? Claire forced herself to breathe. Coming, sweetheart. Mommy's coming. She walked back to the kitchen on wooden legs, sliding the envelope onto the counter where Lily could not see it. She made more pancakes. She smiled. She pretended everything was fine. But inside, her mind was racing. She needed help. She needed it now. As soon as Lily was settled with her crayons, Claire retreated to the bathroom and dialed her sister. Maya answered on the second ring. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Want to grab coffee later and trash talk Derek's new haircut? I saw it on Instagram. He looks like a middle-aged Ken doll who got into a fight with a toupee. Maya, Claire's voice cracked. He filed. A long pause. The divorce in a custody motion. He wants Lily. He's claiming I'm financially unstable and emotionally unfit. There's a hearing in 3 days. That absolute dumpster fire of a human being. Maya's voice went sharp. Okay, breathe, tell me everything, and then tell me his new address so I can key his car. Despite everything, Claire almost laughed. That was Maya, fierce, funny, and completely loyal. She told her sister everything. The documents, the accusations, the impossible timeline. When she finished, Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said the words Claire had been dreading. Claire, his lawyer is Harrison Blackwell, the Rottweiler of family court. Claire closed her eyes. She knew that name. Everyone who had ever been through a divorce in California knew that name. Harrison Blackwell was the lawyer wealthy men hired when they wanted to destroy their wives completely. He had a reputation for making opposing spouses cry within 20 minutes of opening arguments. No one had ever beaten him. Listen to me, Maya's voice was firm. First thing tomorrow, you document everything. Every text Derek ever sent you, every email, every bank statement. Courts do not care about feelings, they care about paper trails. Can you do that? Yes. Claire gripped the phone tighter. Yes, I can do that. Good. And Claire, we are going to fight this. I do not care how expensive his lawyer is. That man is not taking your daughter. Claire hung up and looked at herself in the mirror, dark circles under her eyes. Worry lines she did not remember having a year ago. The face of a woman who had been worn down by years of emotional abuse disguised as marriage. But there was something else in those eyes too. Something Derek had never seen. Something he had mistaken for weakness. Steel. That night, after Lily was asleep, Claire sat on the edge of her daughter's bed and watched her breathe. In the soft glow of the nightlight, Lily looked so small, so peaceful, so completely unaware that her world was about to be torn apart. Claire brushed a strand of hair from Lily's forehead. I will not let him take you, she whispered. I promise. She walked to the living room, opened her laptop, and typed in the password. Lumina. The dashboard loaded. Revenue projections, client contracts, the entire infrastructure of a secret empire. Claire had built this company while Derek thought she was doing nothing. She had taken meetings at midnight. She had closed deals from the bathroom while he entertained clients in the living room. She had created something worth nearly $1 billion. And her husband had never once asked what she was doing on her computer. He thought she was playing solitaire. He thought she was worthless. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. But not yet. Not until the moment would hurt him most. Claire closed the laptop and made a decision that would change everything. She had 72 hours to save her daughter. But she also had a secret weapon Derek could not even imagine. Claire had 72 hours to save everything she loved. But she did not know that Derek had already made a call that would change the game entirely. The diner on 5th Street smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. Claire sat in a corner booth, her back to the wall, watching the door. Across from her, Maya stirred her third cup of coffee without drinking it, her paralegal brain already working overtime. The third person at the table was the one who gave Claire hope. Ruthie Coleman was 67 years old, with silver hair cropped close to her head and eyes that had seen every trick the family court system could play. She had been a family court judge for 23 years before retiring to volunteer at the women's shelter, where Claire had spent 2 terrifying nights after Derek's last explosive argument. Ruthie read through the custody motion, her face growing darker with each page. Concerned neighbor. She snorted. Let me guess. Someone Derek plays golf with. Maya leaned forward. The man does not have friends. He has investments. Ruthie set down the papers. This is bad, Claire. Not because he is right, because he is strategic. Look at what he included. Photos of you looking disheveled, bank statements showing almost no income, an affidavit from this neighbor claiming you seem overwhelmed and distracted. Those photos were taken at 3 in the morning when I was working. Claire's voice was tight. He knew I was exhausted. He took them on purpose. Of course he did. Ruthie nodded. And the bank statements only show your personal checking account, not your business accounts. He is painting a very specific picture for the judge. Claire stared at the table. She could reveal luminous strategies. She could show the court that she was not just financially stable, but wealthy beyond anything Derek could imagine. But Ruthie seemed to read her thoughts. If you have assets you have not disclosed, do not reveal them now. Why not? Because Derek's entire motion is built on the claim that you are deceptive, that you tricked him into marriage. If you suddenly produce hundreds of millions of dollars, he will pivot immediately. He will claim you hid assets from him. He will argue that you are manipulative and cannot be trusted. And in California, he might even try to claim half of what you built. Maya slammed her hand on the table. That is insane. She built that business herself. The law does not always care about fairness. Ruthie's voice was calm but firm. Community property rules are complicated. If she generated that income during the marriage, he could have a claim. We need to be strategic about timing. Claire felt the walls closing in. So what do I do? Just let him call me broke and crazy? For now? Ruthie leaned back. Yes. In family court, timing is everything. You do not play your ace on the first hand. You wait until they are all in on a losing bet. Let him think he is winning. Let him get overconfident. Then we strike. The next 2 days blurred together. Claire called every family lawyer in the city. The good ones were either too expensive or mysteriously had conflicts of interest. Derek's money reached far, and his influence reached farther. Finally, on the second day, she found someone willing to take her case. Martin Cole was in his early 60s, with kind eyes and a rumpled suit that suggested he cared more about justice than appearances. His office was small, tucked away in a building that had seen better decades. I reviewed your case. Martin leaned back in his chair. I will be honest with you, Mrs. Bennett. Harrison Blackwell is formidable, but your husband's motion has weaknesses. The concerned neighbor affidavit is hearsay at best. The photos prove nothing except that you were tired. We can fight this. Claire felt something loosen in her chest. Thank you. I did not think anyone would help me. Everyone deserves representation. Martin smiled, even against the Rottweiler. It was not until Claire was leaving that she noticed the family photos on Martin's desk. A younger man, a teenage daughter, and a woman in her late 20s with sharp features and blonde hair. Claire froze. She knew that face. Vanessa Cole, Derek's mistress, his VP of communications. The woman who had stood in the back of their marriage and smiled while it burned. Martin Cole was Vanessa's father. He did not know. Claire could see Ed in his kind eyes in the proud way he displayed his daughter's photo. He had no idea that his little girl was sleeping with Claire's husband. Sometimes the universe has a dark sense of humor. Sometimes your only ally is connected to your worst enemy. And sometimes you have to dance with the devil to beat him. Claire walked out of the office without saying a word. The night before the hearing, Claire could not sleep. She sat in Lily's doorway, watching her daughter dream. Tomorrow, a judge would decide their fate. Tomorrow, Derek would stand in a courtroom and call her worthless. Tomorrow, everything could change. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Looking forward to meeting you in court, Mrs. Bennett. I hope you have a good lawyer. You are going to need one. No signature. But Claire knew who it was from. Harrison Blackwell. The Rottweiler was already playing games. Claire deleted the message and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would fight. Tomorrow she would lose the first battle. But the war was just beginning. What Claire did not realize was that her own therapist was about to become Derek's weapon. The betrayal waiting for her in that courtroom would cut deeper than she could imagine. And the man she trusted to save her would abandon her at the worst possible moment. The King County family courthouse smelled like floor wax and broken dreams. Claire arrived at 8:45, wearing her best dress. It was from Target, Purchased on clearance 3 years ago, but it was professional. It was dignified. It was all she would allow herself to show. Maya squeezed her hand. "You have got this." Claire nodded, but her stomach was churning. The courtroom was smaller than she expected. Harsh fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everyone in an unflattering pallor. The judge's bench loomed at the front like an altar of judgment. Derek was already there. He sat at the petitioner's table in a $5,000 suit, his hair perfectly styled, his expression radiating confident concern. The loving father worried about his child, the successful businessman forced to take drastic action. It made Claire want to vomit. Next to Derek sat Harrison Blackwell. The Rottweiler was younger than Claire expected, maybe mid-50s, with a shaved head and cold blue eyes that seemed to calculate the weakness of everyone they fell upon. And in the gallery, sitting in the front row like she belonged there, was Vanessa Cole. She wore a modest cream dress, her blonde hair pulled back, her expression carefully neutral, playing the supportive friend. Claire's lawyer, Martin Cole, shuffled papers nervously. He kept glancing at the gallery, and Claire realized with a sinking feeling that he had seen his daughter. He knew now. She could see the confusion and hurt flickering across his face. "All rise," the bailiff's voice echoed. The Honorable Judge Patricia Whitmore presiding. The judge swept in. She was a stern woman in her late 50s with reading glasses perched on her nose and a reputation for efficiency. She took her seat and surveyed the courtroom. "We are here on an emergency motion for temporary custody." She looked at Derek's table. "Mr. Blackwell, you may proceed." Harrison Blackwell stood slowly, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease. "Your Honor, we are here today because a child is at risk." His voice was smooth, almost gentle. "My client, Derek Bennett, is a devoted father. He has built a successful company. He provides stability, structure, and love." Blackwell turned toward Claire, his eyes cold. "The respondent, Mrs. Bennett, cannot offer the same. She has no stable employment. She has moved 4 times in the past 2 years. Bank records show an income barely above the poverty line. She exposes her daughter to financial chaos and emotional instability." He paused for effect. "This is not a mother equipped to raise a child." Claire gripped the edge of her chair. Every word was a lie. Every implication was designed to destroy her, and she had to sit there and take it. Martin Cole objected weakly, but Blackwell rolled over him like a tank over a speed bump. Then came the witness. "We call Dr. Stephen Marsh," Blackwell announced. Claire's blood turned to ice. Dr. Stephen Marsh was a man in his 50s with a forgettable face and a professional demeanor. He took the stand and swore to tell the truth. Claire knew him. 2 years ago, during the worst of her marriage, she had seen him for therapy. She had poured out her fears, her anxieties, her darkest moments. She had trusted him with her vulnerability. "Dr. Marsh," Blackwell approached the witness stand. "You treated Mrs. Bennett professionally, is that correct?" "I did, for approximately 6 months. And in your professional opinion, what was her mental state?" Martin objected. "Your Honor, therapy records are confidential." Blackwell smiled like a shark. "Mrs. Bennett signed a waiver during her marriage, Your Honor. We have the document here." He held up a paper. Claire stared at it. She remembered signing something years ago. Derek had said it was a routine medical form. She had not read it carefully. She had signed away her own privacy. Dr. Marsh continued, his voice clinical and detached. "Mrs. Bennett displayed signs of emotional dysregulation, anxiety, difficulty managing stress. In my professional opinion, she struggled significantly with the demands of daily life." Claire sat frozen. Her own words, her own pain, weaponized against her in open court. If you have ever sat in a room while someone used your vulnerability as a weapon, you know the specific flavor of betrayal Claire tasted in that moment. It tastes like copper, like blood, like the death of trust. The recess came too late. Claire found Martin Cole in the hallway, his face ashen. He was on the phone, his voice strained. "Vanessa, what do you mean you are involved with?" His voice trailed off. He turned and saw Claire. The phone slipped from his hand. He knew. "I am sorry." His voice was hollow. "I cannot continue representing you. My daughter, I just found out she is. I have a conflict of interest. You are leaving me?" Claire's voice cracked. Right now, in the middle of the hearing? I am sorry. Martin gathered his briefcase. He could not meet her eyes. This is a conflict I cannot resolve. I am withdrawing from the case. He walked away. Claire watched him go, too stunned to react. When she returned to the courtroom, she was alone. Judge Whitmore looked at the empty chair beside her. Mrs. Bennett, where is your counsel? He withdrew. Claire's voice was barely audible. Just now, a murmur rippled through the courtroom. Derek smiled. The judge frowned. We can continue with you representing yourself, or we can reschedule. Blackwell stood quickly. Your Honor, the child's welfare cannot wait. We have presented substantial evidence of the respondent's instability. A delay serves no one except someone trying to hide from the truth. Claire wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them all about the $847 million, about Lumina Strategies, about every sacrifice she had made while Derek took credit for her ideas. But Ruthie's words echoed in her mind. Not yet, not until they are all in on a losing bet. Judge Whitmore made her ruling. Based on the evidence presented, I am granting temporary custody to the petitioner. The respondent will have supervised visitation, 2 hours, twice per week, pending a full hearing in 30 days. The gavel fell like a guillotine. Claire heard herself screaming. He is lying, all of it. The bailiff moved toward her. Derek's smile widened, and then the worst moment came. A social worker entered the courtroom holding Lily's hand. Claire dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter into a desperate embrace. Mommy, Lily's voice was confused and scared. Why is Daddy's friend here? She said she is going to be my new mommy. Claire looked up. Vanessa Cole stood at the back of the courtroom, watching, smiling. I will fix this, Claire whispered into Lily's hair. Mommy promises, I will fix this. The social worker gently pulled Lily away. Claire watched her daughter walk toward Derek, watched her little hand slip into his, watched her whole world shatter into pieces. She walked out of the courthouse into the rain, alone. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. An email notification from Lumina Strategies. Urgent board matter. $50 million deal at risk. Immediate response required. Claire stared at the screen. She had to choose. Save her company or save her daughter. She could not do both. But the settlement was not a peace offering. It was a trap. And Claire was about to walk right into it. The rain pounded against the windshield of Claire's 12-year-old Honda, turning the world into a blur of gray and darkness. She had been sitting in the courthouse parking lot for 3 hours. She could not drive. She could not think. She could barely breathe. A knock on the window made her jump. Maya stood outside, drenched, her mascara running in dark rivers down her cheeks. Claire unlocked the door, and her sister slid into the passenger seat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. You know what I did after my divorce? Maya finally said. I ate an entire cheesecake and watched all 8 Harry Potter movies. Took me 14 hours. I did not shower. I did not answer the phone. I just existed. Maya looked at her sister. You are allowed one bad night, Claire. One night. Claire's voice was hoarse from crying. Then I fight. Maya's face softened. That is the Claire I know. The one who made Derek cry during Monopoly because she bankrupted him in 45 minutes. Despite everything, Claire almost smiled. He wanted to play. I wanted to win. They sat in silence for another moment. Then Maya started the car. Where are we going? You will see. The women's shelter was a converted Victorian house on the east side of the city. It did not look like much from the outside, just faded paint and overgrown hedges. But inside, it was warm, safe. Ruthie met them at the door. Bring her in, Ruthie said. I have coffee ready and something stronger if she needs it. They sat in the shelter's common room, surrounded by other women who understood. Women who had lost custody. Women who had been called crazy by men who drove them to madness. Women who had rebuilt their lives from ashes. Claire was not alone anymore. There was a sisterhood that formed in the waiting rooms of family court. You did not need to explain your story. They already knew. They had lived their own version of it. One of those women was Jessica Hartwell. She was 34, with tired eyes and a 2-year-old son she only got to see on weekends now. Her ex-husband had convinced a judge that her depression made her an unfit mother. She had been fighting for 3 years to get more time. It does not get easier. Jessica sat beside Claire, offering her a cup of tea. But you get stronger. You learn the game. And eventually you figure out how to win. How? Claire asked. How did you keep going? Because my son needs me to. Jessica shrugged. Same as your daughter needs you. That is the only reason that matters. Later that night, Claire made a phone call. Harrison Webb answered on the first ring. He was the one person outside her family who knew about Lumina Strategies, her silent partner, her mentor in the business world, a distinguished man in his 60s who had built and sold 3 companies before helping Claire build hers. Harrison, I need your help. Not with business. I need you to find me a lawyer that Derek cannot touch. Webb was quiet for a moment. Claire, I have been waiting for this call for 3 years. I know exactly who to send. The woman who arrived at Claire's apartment the next morning looked like a librarian. White hair pulled back in a sensible bun. Reading glasses on a chain around her neck. A cardigan that probably came from a grandmother's closet. But her eyes were sharp as surgical steel. My name is Margaret Stone. She sat down at Claire's kitchen table without waiting to be invited. Mr. Webb tells me your husband mocked you in court yesterday. He did. Good. I love it when they mock. It means they are not paying attention. Margaret opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I am not cheap. She looked at Claire directly. I charge $1,000 an hour, but I only take cases that interest me. And your case, Mrs. Bennett, interests me very much. Claire blinked. Why? Because Harrison Blackwell destroyed my sister 20 years ago. Margaret's voice was calm, but there was ice underneath. She lost custody of her children. She lost her house. She lost her will to live. I became a lawyer because of him. I have been waiting for the right case to take him down. You are that case, but I cannot afford you. Claire shook her head. I have assets, but if I reveal them now, Derek will claim half. I know about Lumina Strategies. Margaret smiled slightly. Mr. Webb told me everything. We will not reveal your assets until the perfect moment. For now, I am working pro bono. Call it an investment in karma. Here is what most people do not understand about family court. Margaret leaned forward. The judge is not looking for the better parent. They are looking for stability. Your job is not to prove Derek is bad. It is to prove you are unshakable. And Derek's job is to keep underestimating you. Margaret's smile was cold, and so far, he is doing it beautifully. The war room took shape in Claire's small apartment. Maya brought coffee and righteous anger. Ruthie brought legal precedents and 3 decades of judicial experience. Margaret brought the strategy. They worked through the night, building the case piece by piece. 3 in the morning, empty pizza boxes. Ruthie asleep on the couch. Maya looked up from her laptop. You know what Mom would say right now? Claire smiled sadly. Never let a man who cannot fold laundry fold your life. They laughed until they cried, and then they got back to work. Margaret's investigators discovered something interesting. Derek Bennett was not as wealthy as he pretended. Bennett Media Group was $40 million in debt. The IPO he was planning was a house of cards, built on inflated projections and creative accounting. If anyone looked closely, the whole thing would collapse. He is not fighting for Lily because he loves her. Margaret tapped the financial documents. He is fighting for Lily because he needs her. A divorced CEO fighting for custody is a sympathetic figure. A divorced CEO who abandoned his family is a liability. His investors are watching. Claire felt sick. He is using our daughter as a prop. Yes, and we are going to make him regret it. Then Margaret revealed their secret weapon. Vanessa Cole is not in love with Derek. What? She has been feeding information to his competitors. Small leaks. Nothing Derek would notice. But I noticed. Margaret pulled out a thin folder. Vanessa Cole is playing her own game, and I think she wants out. Claire thought about the woman who had stood in the back of the courtroom, smiling as Claire's world fell apart. She thought about the cruelty, the betrayal. You want me to reach out to her? I want you to offer her something no one else can. Margaret met Claire's eyes. A way out. Derek controls her finances, her career, everything. If you can convince her that helping you is in her best interest, she could be our star witness. And if she refuses, then we find another way. But consider this. Margaret leaned forward. Vanessa Cole testified against you. She helped Derek humiliate you. If she flips, if she tells the court what she knows about Derek's manipulation and hidden assets, It does not just help your case. It destroys his credibility completely. Claire stared at the folder. Derek knew about Lumina, but how? The coffee shop was in a city an hour away from Claire's apartment. Neutral territory, safe ground. Claire arrived first, choosing a table in the back corner where she could see both exits. Old habits from 3 years of hiding a secret business. You never sat with your back to the door. Vanessa Cole walked in at exactly 2 o'clock. She looked different than Claire remembered. Thinner, darker circles under her eyes. The polished confidence she had displayed in the courtroom was replaced by something else. Fear. Vanessa slid into the seat across from Claire. Her hands were shaking. If Derek finds out I am here, he will destroy me. Then we should make sure he does not find out. Claire kept her voice calm. I am not here to fight you, Vanessa. I am here to offer you a way out. Vanessa let out a bitter laugh. A way out. That is cute. You do not know what he is like, what he really is. Then tell me. The story came out in fragments. How Derek had pursued Vanessa aggressively, promising her a corner office and a future. How the relationship had started as exciting and quickly become suffocating. How he controlled her finances, monitored her phone, and threatened to destroy her reputation if she ever tried to leave. He told me you were abusive. Vanessa looked at Claire with something like shame. He said you hurt Lily. He said he was saving his daughter from a monster. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Claire felt the anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. She had not come here for revenge. She had come here for information. Derek has hidden assets, offshore accounts. Is that true? Vanessa nodded. Millions. He moves money through shell companies. I have seen the paperwork. And the witnesses against me. The therapist. The concerned neighbor. Did Derek arrange that? He paid Dr. Marsh $50,000. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. I do not know about the neighbor, but I would bet anything Derek arranged that too. Will you testify to this in court? Vanessa went pale. I cannot. He would what? Claire leaned forward. Destroy you? Ruin your career? Make everyone think you are crazy? Vanessa, that is what he does to everyone. That is what he did to me. The only way to beat him is to expose him before he can spin the narrative. Vanessa was silent for a long moment. I need time, she finally said. I need to gather evidence. Proof that he cannot deny. How much time? The final custody hearing is in 3 weeks. Vanessa looked up. Give me until then. I will get you everything. Claire studied the woman across from her. 3 weeks ago, Vanessa Cole was her enemy. Today, she might be her salvation. Why are you helping me? Claire asked. Because you are the first person who ever asked if I wanted out. Vanessa's voice cracked. Everyone else just assumes I am the villain. You actually saw me as a person. It was probably a trap. It was probably stupid, but Claire extended her hand anyway. 3 weeks. Do not let me down. Vanessa shook her hand. Then she was gone, disappearing into the afternoon crowd. When Claire returned to her apartment, Maya was waiting with news. Derek's lawyer called. He wants a settlement meeting. Claire froze. Settlement? They are offering shared custody. No alimony from either side. Quick and clean. It sounded too good to be true. Because it was. Girl, when a snake offers you an apple, you check for poison. Maya crossed her arms. What is he really after? Margaret arrived an hour later, flipping through the settlement documents with growing concern. It is a trap, she finally said. Look at Clause 14, subsection C. By accepting shared custody, you waive any claim to assets generated during the marriage. But that means his IPO is happening in 10 days. If you sign this, you cannot touch a dime of it. He walks away with $500 million and you get nothing. Claire stared at the documents. She thought about Lily, alone in Derek's house, surrounded by people who saw her as nothing more than a strategic asset. What if I do not care about his money? What if I just want my daughter? Margaret shook her head. If you sign this, you are telling Derek he won. You are telling him his strategy worked. And the next time you try to challenge him on anything, he will know exactly how to beat you. Give in once and you will give in forever. But the alternative is more months of fighting. More court dates. More time without Lily. Claire thought about her daughter's face, about the confusion and fear in those little eyes. She made a decision she would regret. Against Margaret's advice, Claire signed the preliminary settlement agreement. "Let me call Lily," Claire said. "Let me tell her the good news." The video call connected. Lily's face filled the screen, lighting up when she saw her mother. "Mommy, Daddy said I can come home soon. Is that true?" Claire felt tears streaming down her face. "Yes, baby. Mommy and Daddy worked things out. You will be home soon." Lily's smile was worth everything, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. But 48 hours later, Claire understood the true cost of that smile. The news alert hit like a sledgehammer. Bennett Media Group announces IPO, valuation exceeds $500 million. Below the headline was a quote from Derek Bennett. "I am so grateful my ex-wife and I resolved our differences. She has agreed to support my vision for the company's future. This is a victory for everyone, especially our daughter." Claire read the settlement fine print again, really read it this time. By accepting shared custody, the respondent waives all claims to appreciation of marital assets generated during the marriage. She had signed away her right to his IPO money. She had signed away her leverage. And Derek had announced it to the world before the ink was dry. He had never intended to share custody. He had just needed her signature before the SEC deadline. Margaret was right. It was a trap, and Claire had walked directly into it. The custody ruling felt like a victory. It was actually the beginning of the end. Claire sat in Margaret's office, staring at the settlement documents like they might burst into flames through sheer force of will. "We need to undo this," she said. "There has to be a way." Margaret's face was grim. "The only way to avoid a settlement is to prove fraud or coercion. We have 96 hours before the agreement becomes final. Derek defrauded me. He lied about his intentions. Proving that requires evidence." Margaret began pacing. "We need documentation that he never intended to honor the custody arrangement. We need proof that the settlement was designed specifically to protect his IP." "What about Vanessa?" Claire asked. "She said she would get evidence. Vanessa Cole is a liability until proven otherwise." Margaret shook her head. "We cannot build our case on the promises of someone who testified against you. We need something concrete." That night, Claire did the only thing she could think of. She called Vanessa. The phone rang 6 times before connecting. "Claire." Vanessa's voice was strained. "I told you, I need time. We are out of time." Claire forced herself to stay calm. Derek used the settlement to protect his IPO. The agreement becomes final in 4 days. "If you have anything, I need it now." A long pause. "I have documents." Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. "Recordings. Proof that Derek has been hiding money for years. But there is more. Something bigger." "What?" "The judge. Patricia Whitmore. Derek's family donated $200,000 to her campaign. There are emails showing she promised favorable consideration in exchange for the contributions." Claire felt the floor drop out from under her. Judicial corruption. That changed everything. If we expose this, the entire case starts over. New judge, new timeline, more months of fighting. "But if you do not expose it," Vanessa continued, "you cannot get a fair trial. The whole system is rigged against you." Claire closed her eyes. Have you ever been trapped between two impossible choices, where fighting means losing and surrendering means losing differently? Claire sat in that impossible space, and she made a decision that would change everything. "Vanessa, I need to meet with you. I need everything you have." "Fine." Vanessa's voice was barely audible. "Tomorrow. Same coffee shop, 2 o'clock. Claire hung up and allowed herself a moment of hope. It was a small moment, fragile as glass, but hope was all she had left. The coffee shop was empty at 2 o'clock the next afternoon. Claire sat at the same table, in the same corner, watching both exits. 2:15 passed. 2:30. Vanessa did not come. At 2:45, Claire's phone rang. But it was not Vanessa, it was Derek. "Did you really think she was on your side?" His voice was smug, triumphant. "Vanessa told me everything, Claire. Your little conspiracy, your secret meetings, your pathetic business." He paused, savoring the moment. "Oh yes, Claire. I know about Lumina Strategies." Claire's blood turned to ice. $847 million. Derek laughed. "My wife, the secret billionaire." "I have to admit, I did not see that coming, but it does not matter. By this time tomorrow, every asset you own will be frozen. My lawyers are filing an emergency motion right now. You cannot do that. I can do anything I want. You should have learned that by now." Derek's voice hardened. You thought you could hide from me? You thought you could build a little empire behind my back and I would not notice? I made you, Claire. Everything you have, everything you are, belongs to me." The line went dead. Claire sat in the empty coffee shop, her phone pressed to her ear, listening to silence. Vanessa had betrayed her. Derek knew everything. The trap had been perfect, and she had walked into it with her eyes wide open. Her phone buzzed again. News alert. Bennett Media CEO claims wife hid nearly $1 billion during divorce. The story was everywhere, every network, every website, every social media platform. Claire Bennett, depicted in court documents as a struggling mother barely above the poverty line, is actually the secret owner of Lumina Strategies, a consulting firm valued at nearly $1 billion. The narrative was devastating. She was not a victim anymore. She was a liar, a manipulator, a woman who cried poor while sitting on a mountain of hidden wealth. Her investors panicked. Lumina's major contracts started canceling within hours. The empire she had spent 3 years building was collapsing in real time. Maya called frantic. "Are you seeing this?" Claire stared at her phone, watching her face appear on screen after screen. "He is trying to destroy me. What do we do?" "I do not know." Claire's voice broke. "I do not know anymore." 3 disasters were about to hit in the next 24 hours, and Claire had no idea that the worst was still to come. The knock came at 6 in the morning. Claire had not slept. She had spent the night watching her company crumble, fielding calls from panicked board members, trying to salvage what she could. When she opened the door, she found Margaret, Maya, Ruthie, and Dr. Helen Crawford standing in the hallway. She tried to close the door. Maya blocked it with her foot. "We are not going anywhere." Claire looked at them, these women who had fought beside her, who had believed in her when no one else did. "I cannot do this anymore," she whispered. They pushed their way inside anyway. The apartment looked like a war zone. Empty coffee cups, scattered papers, the wreckage of a woman who had finally hit bottom. Dr. Crawford guided Claire to the couch and sat beside her. "Grief is not a straight line." Her voice was calm and steady. "You are allowed to fall apart, but you are not allowed to stay on the ground." "What is the point?" Claire's voice was hollow. "He wins. He always wins." Ruthie settled into the armchair across from her. "Child, I have watched powerful men fall my whole career. You know what they all had in common? They believed they were untouchable. That belief is always their undoing. They shared their stories then, not as lectures, not as advice, just as reminders that survival was possible." Ruthie lost her first custody case. Her ex-husband got their children for 2 years while she rebuilt her career, passed the bar, and climbed her way to the bench. "I thought my life was over," she said, "but it was just beginning." Maya's divorce left her $60,000 in debt. It took 7 years to pay off. 7 years of working 2 jobs and clipping coupons and wondering if she would ever feel whole again. "Now I own my own home," Maya said, "and my ex lives in his mother's basement." Dr. Crawford lost a child, a stillbirth at 8 months. She nearly gave up on everything. Instead, she went back to school, became a therapist, and spent 20 years helping other women survive their darkest moments. If you have ever sat in a circle of women who understood, who did not judge, who just held space for your pain, you know why Claire finally started breathing again. There is medicine in sisterhood. There is power in being seen. Claire's phone rang. She almost ignored it, but something made her look at the screen. "Harrison Webb," she answered. "Claire, I have been in business for 40 years. Webb's voice was firm. "I have never seen anyone as resourceful as you. The board and I, we are not walking away. We are doubling down. Whatever you need, we are here." The investors are panicking. Some investors, not the ones who matter. The Henderson Corporation deal is still on. Westbrook Industries called this morning to confirm their contract. The people who actually know you, Claire, they are not going anywhere. She hung up and looked at the women around her. "The business is not gone," she said slowly. "The major clients are holding." Margaret pulled out a folder, "And I found something. Derek's motion to freeze your assets has a flaw." "What kind of flaw?" "He claimed you hid assets during the marriage. But Lumina was incorporated 1 month before you got married, in your maiden name. The original formation documents predate the marriage." Claire sat up straighter. "Separate property. It is a thin argument, but it is possible. Margaret spread papers across the coffee table. More importantly, Derek knew about Luman all along. What? I found emails from 2019. Derek boasting to investors about his wife's little consulting project. He promised them access to your network, your clients. Claire stared at the documents. He knew. He benefited from it. And then he pretended I was broke just to humiliate me. Exactly. Margaret smiled coldly. His own arrogance is going to destroy him. They built a counterattack over the next 3 days, document by document, evidence by evidence. A case so airtight that even Harrison Blackwell would not be able to punch through it. The new hearing was scheduled for Monday. Different judge. Patricia Whitmore had voluntarily recused herself after anonymous complaints reached the Bar Association. The new judge was Harold Metz, a 65-year-old legend known for his fairness and zero tolerance for courtroom games. For the first time in weeks, Claire felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. But then the phone rang, and everything changed. The courtroom felt different this time. Same harsh fluorescent lights humming overhead. Same polished floors that squeaked under nervous shoes. Same smell of floor wax and desperation that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. But the energy was different, charged, electric, like the air before a summer thunderstorm when you can taste the lightning coming. Claire walked through the courthouse doors with her chin held high, even though her hands were trembling inside her pockets. Maya walked on her left, Ruthie on her right. Margaret Stone led the way like a general marching into battle. The sisterhood moved as one. If you have ever walked into a room where everyone expected you to fail, where they had already written your ending before you spoke a single word, you know exactly how Claire felt in that moment. Your heart pounds so loud you are sure everyone can hear it. Your palms sweat. Your mouth goes dry, but you keep walking because the only alternative is to stop. And stopping means dying. Claire refused to die. Judge Harold Metz sat at the bench, his weathered face betraying nothing. 65 years old, 30 years on the family court bench, he had seen 1,000 cases just like this one. Wealthy husband, discarded wife, children caught in the crossfire. But something in his eyes suggested this case was different. Derek was already seated at the petitioner's table, and Claire felt a surge of grim satisfaction at what she saw. He looked terrible. His $5,000 suit was rumpled, like he had slept in it. His hair, usually perfectly styled, stuck up at odd angles. Dark circles carved shadows under his eyes. He kept glancing at the door, at his phone, at his lawyer, like a trapped animal searching for escape routes. And his lawyer was not Harrison Blackwell. The Rottweiler was gone. In his place sat a young associate Claire did not recognize, barely out of law school by the look of him, shuffling papers with hands that visibly trembled. He had the desperate expression of someone who had been thrown into the deep end without a life jacket. Harrison Blackwell had abandoned his client. The most ruthless divorce attorney in California had looked at the evidence against Derek Bennett and decided his reputation was worth more than Derek's money. That was the first sign that the tide was turning. Maya leaned close to Claire's ear. He looks like he has not slept in a week. Good, Claire whispered back. Neither have I. Margaret Stone stood at Claire's side, radiating the quiet competence of a woman who had spent 30 years destroying men like Derek Bennett. She opened her briefcase with deliberate slowness, letting the anticipation build. "We are ready, Your Honor," she announced. The hearing began. Margaret's presentation was surgical, precise, devastating. She laid out Derek's fraud piece by piece, each revelation landing like a hammer blow. The hidden offshore accounts totaling $15 million, the $40 million debt he had concealed from investors, the bribes to Dr. Stephen Marsh, complete with bank transfer receipts, the manipulation of Claire's therapy records, the emails coaching witnesses on exactly what to say. With each piece of evidence, Derek's face grew paler. With each document Margaret presented, his young lawyer sank lower in his chair. The gallery was silent. Even the court reporter stopped typing for a moment, caught up in the destruction unfolding before her. Judge Metz's expression grew darker with each revelation. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. Claire could see the disgust forming on his face, the realization that he was looking at a man who had weaponized the entire legal system against his own wife. Then Claire took the stand. She had practiced her testimony 100 times, in the shower, in the car, in the middle of the night when she could not sleep. Margaret had coached her on every answer, every pause, every moment of eye contact. But when she sat in that witness chair, when she looked out at the courtroom full of people waiting to judge her, she forgot all of it. The careful phrases vanished. The strategic talking points disappeared. She just told the truth. I met Derek when I was 26 years old, Claire began. He was charming, brilliant. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. I fell in love with the man I thought he was. Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed through. For the first 2 years, I thought I had found my person. He was struggling to build his company. I worked 2 jobs to support us. I typed his business plans at 2 in the morning. I held him when he cried after his first bankruptcy. I believed in him when no one else did. She looked at Derek. He would not meet her eyes. Then he succeeded, and everything changed. She told them about the night she held Lily through nightmares while Derek worked late, or said he was working late. About the birthday parties she planned alone because Derek was too busy, or too important, or too tired. About the school plays he missed, the parent-teacher conferences he skipped, the bedtime stories he never read. She told them about Lily's favorite story, the one about the brave princess who did not wait for a prince to save her, the one Claire had made up herself, night after night, because she wanted her daughter to know that women could be heroes too. Derek does not know that story, Claire said softly. He never asked. Margaret stepped forward. Mrs. Bennett, what does your daughter need most right now? Claire looked at Derek, then at the judge, then at the women sitting in the gallery. Maya wiping tears from her eyes. Ruthie nodding slowly. Jessica Hartwell, who had driven 2 hours just to be there. Her sisterhood. She needs to know that love does not leave, Claire said. That home is not a building. That her mother will always, always fight for her. If you have ever loved someone so much it terrified you, if you have ever looked at your child and known you would burn the world down to protect them, you understand what was in Claire's voice in that moment. Not anger, not revenge. Just love. Pure, fierce, unstoppable love. Judge Metz called a brief recess. When he returned, his face was set like granite. Based on the evidence presented, I am modifying the temporary custody order. Full physical custody is granted to the respondent, Claire Bennett, effective immediately. Claire heard the words, but they did not feel real. The petitioner will have supervised visitation only, pending a full investigation into the allegations of witness tampering and financial fraud. The gavel fell. For a moment there was silence. Then Maya screamed. It was not a word. It was pure, joy-given voice, exploding from her chest like she had been holding it in for months. She was on her feet, arms raised, tears streaming down her face. Ruthie stood more slowly, but her smile was just as bright. She caught Claire's eye and nodded once. The nod of a woman who had seen justice fail 1,000 times, finally watching it succeed. Margaret squeezed Claire's hand. You did it. Claire shook her head, her own tears falling now. We did it, all of us. She walked out of the courtroom into the sunshine. The sky was impossibly blue. The air smelled like spring. For the first time in months, Claire felt like she could breathe, like the weight that had been crushing her chest had finally lifted. She stood on the courthouse steps and let the sun warm her face. It was over. She had won. She was getting her daughter back. But if Claire had learned anything in the past few months, it was that Derek Bennett never stopped fighting until he was completely destroyed. Victory did not last. 24 hours later, Claire's world exploded again. It started with a knock at the door. Claire was in the kitchen making dinner, real dinner, for the first time in weeks. Lily's favorite, macaroni and cheese with the fancy breadcrumb topping. She was humming to herself, something she had not done in months. The knock came at 7:15. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and walked to the door, still smiling, still floating on the high of yesterday's victory. The smile died when she saw who was waiting. A social worker stood in the hallway. Her face was apologetic but firm. Behind her stood 2 police officers. Mrs. Bennett, the social worker's voice was gentle. The kind of gentle people use when they are about to destroy you. There has been an emergency motion filed. The custody order has been stayed pending investigation. What investigation? Claire heard her own voice from very far away, like she was underwater, like she was drowning. Evidence has come to light suggesting you plan to flee the country with your daughter. The social worker handed Claire a document. Her hands were shaking. I am sorry, we have to take Lily into temporary protective custody. That is insane, bro. Claire's voice rose, cracking with panic. I have never planned to run anywhere. I just won custody yesterday. Why would I run? The evidence includes emails from your account. The social worker would not meet her eyes. Detailed plans, flight itineraries. I am sorry, Mrs. Bennett. This is not my decision. Claire tried to push past them, tried to get to Lily's room, tried to hold her daughter one more time before they took her away again. The officers blocked her way. Ma'am, we need you to stay calm. Calm? Claire's voice was rising now, edged with hysteria. You are taking my daughter based on fake emails, and you want me to stay calm? Mommy? The small voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Lily appeared in the hallway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She was wearing her favorite pajamas, the ones with the little stars. She looked so small, so confused, so scared. What is happening? Lily's voice trembled. Why are the police here? Claire dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter into a desperate embrace. She breathed in the scent of strawberry shampoo, felt the warmth of her little body, memorized every detail. It is okay, baby. Mommy's going to fix this. Mommy promises. I want to stay with you. Lily was crying now, clinging to Claire's shirt with both fists. Please, Mommy. Please do not let them take me. I know, sweetheart. I know. The social worker stepped forward. Mrs. Bennett, we need to go now. No, Claire held tighter. Lily sobbed against her chest. One of the officers moved toward them. Ma'am, please do not make this harder than it has to be. Harder? Claire looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. You are ripping a child away from her mother. How could this possibly be harder? But she knew she could not win. Not like this. Not with force. She pulled back and looked into Lily's eyes. Listen to me, baby. Mommy has to let you go right now. But I am going to fix this. I am going to bring you home. I promise. Do you believe me? Lily nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I need you to be brave. Can you do that? Can you be brave like the princess in our story? The princess who saves herself? That is right, baby. Claire's heart was shattering. The princess who saves herself. And you know what? Mommy is going to save herself too. And then she is going to come get you. The social worker gently pulled Lily away. Claire watched her daughter walk toward the door, watched her little hand reach back, fingers grasping for a mother she could not touch, watched her whole world shatter for the second time. Mommy, Lily screamed as they carried her out. Mommy, please. The door closed. The silence that followed was the loudest thing Claire had ever heard. 2 hours later, it got worse. The knock this time was harder, more official. Claire opened the door already knowing what she would see. FBI, 2 agents in dark suits, badges held up like shields. Claire Bennett, you are under arrest. The charges were absurd. Wire fraud, money laundering. Derek had filed a complaint claiming Lumina Strategies was a front for illegal activity. It was a lie. An obvious, desperate lie that any competent investigator would see through in 5 minutes. But 5 minutes was not now. And now Claire was being handcuffed. You have the right to remain silent, the agent recited as he clicked the metal around her wrists. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The neighbors had gathered in the hallway. Claire could see them through the open door. The couple from 4B, who she had never spoken to. The elderly woman from 4D, who always complained about noise. They watched with wide eyes and whispered to each other. Billionaire wife, Claire heard someone say, turned out to be a fraud all along. She walked past them with her head high. She would not give Derek the satisfaction of seeing her broken on the evening news. But inside, she was crumbling. The photograph would be everywhere by morning. Claire Bennett in handcuffs being led to a federal vehicle. The perfect image to destroy her reputation, her business, her life. Billionaire wife arrested in divorce drama. The humiliation was complete. She posted bail within hours. Lumina's lawyers were excellent. But when she picked up her phone, there was a voicemail from Derek. His voice was smug, triumphant, the voice of a man who had won and wanted her to know it. Lily had a little accident. She is at St. Francis Hospital. Do not worry. Vanessa is taking good care of her. Claire's blood turned to ice. She drove 90 miles an hour to the hospital, running red lights, ignoring horns, not caring about anything except getting to her daughter. She burst through the emergency room doors at 11:47 p.m. The fluorescent lights were harsh. The smell of antiseptic burned her nose. She ran to the reception desk. Lily Bennett. Where is Lily Bennett? The nurse checked her computer. Pediatric wing, room 312. Claire ran. She found the room at the end of a long hallway. Through the window, she could see Lily lying in a hospital bed, her right arm in a cast. She was crying softly, reaching for someone who was not there. Derek sat beside the bed, holding Lily's good hand, playing the devoted father for the nurses who bustled in and out. Claire reached for the door. A security guard stepped in front of her. I am sorry, ma'am. I cannot let you in there. That is my daughter, I understand. But there is a court order. No unsupervised contact. Court order? Claire's voice rose. She fell down the stairs. She is hurt. She needs her mother, I'm sorry. The guard's face was sympathetic but firm. The order came through an hour ago. I cannot let you in. Claire pressed her hand against the glass. Inside the room, Lily looked up. She saw her mother. Her face crumpled. Mommy. Her voice was muffled by the glass, but Claire could read her lips. Mommy, help me. Claire pounded on the window. I am here, baby. Mommy is right here. Derek looked up. He saw Claire through the glass. He smiled. That smile, that satisfied, triumphant, cruel smile. The smile of a man who had won and wanted her to know it. Claire sank to her knees in the hospital hallway. She had lost everything. Her daughter was hurt, and she could not hold her. She had been arrested like a criminal. The world thought she was a fraud, and the man who had done all of this was sitting by her daughter's bedside, playing Father of the Year for the cameras. If you have ever felt completely, utterly powerless, if you have ever watched someone you love suffer and been unable to reach them, if you have ever knelt on a cold floor and asked God or the universe or anyone who was listening how much more you could take, you know exactly where Claire was in that moment. At the edge, at the end, at the place where most people break. The weight of everything crashed down on her at once. The months of fighting, the betrayals, the court battles, the sleepless nights, the moment when Lily was ripped from her arms, the handcuffs clicking around her wrists, and now this, her daughter crying in pain, 10 feet away, and Claire could not reach her. She pressed her forehead against the cold tile floor and sobbed. But here is the thing about rock bottom. Once you hit it, there is only one direction left to go. And some people do not break when they hit bottom. Some people shatter into a million pieces, and then those pieces catch fire, and then they rise from the ashes like something new, something stronger, something dangerous. Claire looked up at her daughter through that glass, and something in her shifted. Not broke. Shifted, like tectonic plates before an earthquake, like the moment before a volcano erupts. She had played by the rules. She had been patient. She had trusted the system. The system had failed her. It was time to stop playing defense. It was time to burn Derek Bennett's world to the ground. Claire sat on the hospital floor until 2 in the morning. Security guards walked past her. Nurses stepped around her. No one asked if she was okay. No one offered her a hand. She was invisible, a ghost haunting the hallway outside her daughter's room. She watched through the window as Derek eventually left, as Vanessa took his place, sitting in the chair beside Lily's bed, pretending to be a mother to a child who was not hers. She watched as Lily finally fell asleep, her injured arm resting on a pillow, her face still wet with tears. She stayed until she could not stay anymore. Maya found her in the parking garage at 3 a.m., slumped against the hood of her car. Jesus, Claire. Maya's voice cracked. I've been calling you for 6 hours. Claire looked up. Her eyes were red. Her face was streaked with dried tears. But there was something else there too. Something Maya had not seen before. Steel. He is going to pay, Claire said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that made Maya's skin prickle. He is going to pay for everything he has done. Maya knelt beside her sister. How? I do not know yet. Claire stood up slowly, her joints aching from hours on the cold floor. But I am done waiting for the system to save me. I am going to save myself. They drove back to Claire's apartment in silence. The phone rang at 6:15 a.m. Claire had not slept. She was sitting at her kitchen table, staring at the wall, running through scenarios in her head. Attack strategies, legal options, ways to destroy a man who seemed to have the entire world on his side. The number on her phone was unknown. She almost did not answer. She was so tired of bad news, so tired of phones ringing and bringing more disasters. But something made her pick up. Mrs. Bennett? The voice was female, nervous, unfamiliar. Who is this? A pause, then words that changed everything. This is Lydia Marsh, Dr. Stephen Marsh's wife, the therapist who testified against you. Claire sat up straighter. Why are you calling me? Because my husband lied under oath. Lydia's voice was trembling but determined. And I have proof. Derek Bennett paid him $50,000 to destroy you. I have the receipts, bank transfers, emails, everything. Claire's heart started pounding. Why are you telling me this? Because I found the emails last night. Lydia's voice cracked. I knew Stephen was doing consulting work. He told me it was legitimate. But I found the communications between him and Derek. He told Stephen exactly what to say. Word for word, how to twist your therapy sessions to make you sound unstable. She paused, gathering herself. My husband sold his integrity. He destroyed an innocent woman for money. And I cannot live with that. Will you testify? Yes, Lydia's voice was firm now. I have already contacted the Bar Association. Stephen's license will be suspended by tomorrow, and I will give you everything you need to bury Derek Bennett. Claire closed her eyes. The system was corrupt. The judge was bought. The therapist was bribed. The evidence was fabricated. But the system was also full of people who wanted to do the right thing, people like Lydia Marsh, who had discovered that the man she loved was a monster and had decided to burn him down anyway. There is a special kind of courage that comes from women who have been betrayed, a fierce, righteous anger that can move mountains. Claire had felt it in herself. Now she was seeing it in Lydia. Can you meet me tomorrow? I can meet you today. Lydia's voice was urgent. This has gone on long enough. 1 hour later, Claire sat across from Lydia Marsh in a quiet coffee shop. Lydia was in her late 40s, with kind eyes and graying hair, and the exhausted look of a woman who had not slept in days. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was everything. Bank transfers from Derek Bennett to Dr. Stephen Marsh. $50,000 spread across 6 payments. Emails detailing exactly what the therapist should say on the stand. Specific phrases, specific diagnoses. A script for perjury. He even sent sample testimony, Lydia said, disgust dripping from her voice. Stephen practiced it like he was rehearsing for a play. Claire flipped through the pages, feeling her hope rebuild with each piece of evidence. This is enough to get your husband's license revoked. It is enough to get him arrested. Lydia's jaw tightened, and it is enough to prove that Derek Bennett orchestrated the entire thing. Why did you stay silent before? Lydia looked down at her hands. Because I did not want to know. She was quiet for a moment. When Stephen came home with that money, he told me it was a consulting fee. He said he was just providing expert testimony. I wanted to believe him. We have been married for 22 years. I did not want to see what he had become. What changed? Lydia looked up, meeting Claire's eyes directly. I saw the news. I saw them arrest you. I saw your daughter being taken away. And I thought about my own daughter. She is 19 now, in college. If someone did to her what Derek did to you, I would want someone to speak up. I would want someone to tell the truth. She reached across the table and touched Claire's hand. I am so sorry for what my husband did to you. I cannot undo it. But I can help you end this. If you have ever received kindness from a stranger at your lowest moment, if you have ever been thrown a lifeline when you were drowning, you understand the tears that fell from Claire's eyes in that moment. Not tears of sadness, tears of gratitude, tears of relief, tears of finally not being alone. 1 hour later, Claire met with Margaret Stone. The evidence was devastating, but Margaret had more. A reporter from the Washington Post has been investigating Derek for months. Her name is Catherine Wells, Pulitzer nominee. She has been looking into financial irregularities at Bennett Media. Claire leaned forward. What kind of irregularities? The IPO is built on fraud. Margaret spread documents across her desk. Bennett Media has been cooking the books for years. Inflated revenue projections, hidden debts, creative accounting that borders on criminal. Can you prove it? Catherine can. She has been building this story for 6 months. She wants to publish, but she needs someone on the record. She wants you. Claire thought about it. Going public meant exposing everything. Her secret company, her hidden wealth, her entire strategy. But it also meant controlling the narrative. It meant telling her story before Derek could spin another lie. Set up the meeting. Catherine Wells was exactly what Claire expected and nothing like she imagined. She was 45 years old with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She wore jeans and a blazer, and she carried a digital recorder that she set on the table between them. I have been watching your case, Catherine said. I know what Derek did to you. I know about the witness tampering, the fabricated evidence, the judicial corruption, and I have spent 6 months documenting his financial fraud. She leaned forward. I want to tell your story, the real story, not the version Derek has been feeding to the press. Why should I trust you? Because I have sources inside Bennett Media who confirm everything. Because I have documents that prove the IPO is a house of cards. And because the truth deserves to be heard. Claire studied the journalist for a long moment. What do you need? Everything. Catherine's eyes were intense. Every document, every email, every piece of evidence. I want to publish the morning of your final hearing. I want Derek Bennett to wake up and see his entire empire burning. Maya leaned close to Claire's ear. I think I love her. Despite everything, Claire almost smiled. Then let us burn it down together. The plan came together over the next 48 hours. Claire and her team worked around the clock, coordinating an assault on every front of Derek's life. The Washington Post story would drop at 6 a.m. on the morning of the final hearing. Simultaneously, the FBI would receive evidence of Derek's false testimony to federal agents. The SEC would get documentation proving the IPO was fraudulent. Lydia Marsh would submit her sworn recantation, exposing her husband's perjury. And the Bar Association would suspend Dr. Stephen Marsh's license. In war, you do not attack one front, Margaret explained, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. You attack all of them at once. Overwhelm, disorient, and never give them time to recover. But there was one more piece they needed, one more witness who could seal Derek's fate. Vanessa Cole. Claire hesitated. Vanessa betrayed me. She told Derek everything. Margaret nodded. She did. But I have been doing some digging. Vanessa Cole has been making calls to Derek's competitors. Quiet calls, secret meetings. She has been gathering her own evidence against him. Claire frowned. Because Derek has been abusing her too. Margaret pulled out a thin folder. Financial control, threats, intimidation. Sound familiar? Claire thought about the woman who had stood in the back of the courtroom, smiling as Claire's world fell apart. She had hated Vanessa, had blamed her for everything. But now she wondered if Vanessa was just another victim, another woman trapped by a man who used power like a weapon. What do you want me to do? I want you to reach out to her. One more time. Margaret's voice was steady. Offer her what you offered before, a way out. And this time I think she will take it. The night before the final hearing, Claire stood on her apartment balcony and looked out at the city lights. Tomorrow, everything would change. Either she would destroy Derek Bennett completely, or she would lose everything. There was no middle ground, no second chances. This was the final battle. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Whatever happens tomorrow, I am proud of you. You fought like hell. Claire smiled and typed a reply. We fought like hell, all of us. Then she closed her eyes and let the night air wash over her. She thought about Lily, about the promise she had made through the hospital glass, about the princess who saved herself. Tomorrow, Claire would save herself, and then she would save her daughter. The final hearing was not just about custody. It was about everything. The Washington Post story dropped at 6 a.m. Claire was already awake, sitting at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee she could not drink, watching her phone like it might explode. The headline appeared first. Bennett Media CEO accused of witness tampering, financial fraud, and systematic abuse in bitter divorce battle. Then came the subheadline. Investigation reveals bribery of expert witnesses, fabricated evidence, and an IPO built on lies. Claire read the story 3 times. Catherine Wells had delivered everything she promised. The article was devastating, detailed, meticulously sourced. It painted Derek Bennett not as a successful businessman going through a difficult divorce, but as a calculating predator who had weaponized the entire legal system against his wife. By 7 a.m., every major news outlet had picked up the story. By 8 a.m., Derek's stock was in free fall. By 9 a.m., his investors were calling in panic, demanding answers, threatening to pull their funding. Claire watched the chaos unfold from her car in the courthouse parking lot. Maya sat beside her, refreshing Twitter on her phone and providing live commentary. Oh my God. Maya's eyes were wide. The hashtag Derek Bennett is over is trending. There are memes. So many memes. Despite everything, Claire laughed. What kind of memes? Maya showed her the phone. Someone photoshopped his face onto a dumpster fire. They laughed together. It felt strange to laugh. Strange but good. Like the first rays of sunshine after a long, dark winter. Margaret knocked on the car window. It is time. Claire took a deep breath. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. She was wearing a simple navy suit. Professional, dignified, not too expensive, not too cheap. The outfit of a woman who had nothing to prove and nothing to hide. She opened the car door and stepped out into the morning light. The courthouse steps were swarming with reporters. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust toward her face. Questions shouted from every direction. Mrs. Bennett, is it true you are worth nearly $1 billion, Mrs. Bennett? What do you say to accusations that you hid assets? Mrs. Bennett, how do you respond to claims that you plan to flee the country? Claire walked past them without a word. Margaret had coached her on this. Say nothing. Let the evidence speak for itself. The sisterhood moved through the crowd like a single unit. Maya on her left, Ruthie on her right, Margaret leading the way. Jessica Hartwell, who had driven 3 hours to be there, bringing up the rear. 5 women walking into battle together. Inside the courthouse, Derek was already seated at the petitioner's table. He looked worse than yesterday. His $5,000 suit was visibly wrinkled now. Coffee stains on his shirt. His hands trembled as he shuffled papers. His young lawyer sat beside him, looking like he wished he was anywhere else on earth. Derek looked up as Claire entered. Their eyes met. For one moment, Claire saw something she had never seen before in those eyes. Fear. Good. Judge Metz called the hearing to order. I have reviewed the materials submitted by both parties, he began, his voice grave. I have also seen the news this morning. He paused, looking directly at Derek. Mr. Bennett, I trust your counsel has advised you of the serious nature of the allegations now facing you. Derek's lawyer stood nervously. Your Honor, my client maintains that these allegations are false and defamatory. We intend to pursue legal action against the Washington Post and anyone else who has spread these lies. Judge Metz was unimpressed. That is your prerogative. But we are here today to address custody and the validity of several court orders that have been called into question. He turned to Claire's side. Mrs. Stone, you may proceed. Margaret rose slowly. Your Honor, we are not here to relitigate custody. We are here to expose a systematic campaign of fraud, intimidation, and abuse of the legal system by Derek Bennett. She walked to the front of the courtroom, commanding attention with every step. Over the past 72 hours, we have gathered evidence of bribery, witness tampering, fabrication of evidence, and perjury. We request that all previous orders be vacated and that this matter be referred to the District Attorney for criminal investigation. She turned to the gallery. We call our first witness, Lydia Marsh. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Lydia walked to the stand with her head held high. She took the oath. She looked directly at the judge, and then she told the truth. My husband, Stephen Marsh, was paid $50,000 by Derek Bennett to provide false testimony against Claire Bennett. She produced the receipts, the bank transfers, the emails showing Derek coaching the therapist on exactly what to say. He told my husband to say that Claire was emotionally unstable. Lydia's voice was steady. He provided specific phrases, specific diagnoses. It was scripted perjury. Derek's lawyer objected. This witness is not qualified to interpret medical testimony. Judge Metz overruled him with a wave of his hand. The witness is testifying to what she observed, not providing medical opinions. Continue. Lydia continued. When I confronted my husband about these payments, he admitted everything. He said Derek Bennett had promised to destroy his career if he did not cooperate. He said he had no choice. She looked at Claire with tears in her eyes. But there is always a choice, and my husband made the wrong one. I am here to make it right. During the recess, Claire watched federal marshals escort Dr. Stephen Marsh from the courthouse in handcuffs. He had been sitting in the gallery, perhaps hoping to support his wife, or perhaps hoping to minimize the damage. Now he was being led away to face charges of perjury and fraud. One down. The second witness was unexpected. The courtroom doors opened. Vanessa Cole walked in. Derek went pale. His jaw dropped. He half rose from his chair before his lawyer pulled him back down. Vanessa was not here to support him. She was here to destroy him. Your Honor. Vanessa's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the silent courtroom. I am here to testify against the petitioner. She walked to the witness stand. She raised her right hand. She swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Then she did exactly that. For 2 years, I was in a relationship with Derek Bennett. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. At first, I believed he was a good man trapped in a bad marriage. He told me his wife was abusive, that she was mentally unstable, that he was protecting his daughter from a monster. She paused, gathering herself. I believed him. I wanted to believe him, because believing him meant I was not a homewrecker. I was a savior. Vanessa looked at Claire for the first time. I was wrong about everything. She testified about the manipulation, the control, the threats. She testified about Derek's instructions to gather evidence against Claire, to befriend her and betray her, to plant fabricated emails in her accounts. He told me exactly what to do. Vanessa's voice cracked. He said if I did not help him destroy her, he would destroy me. He controlled my finances, my career, my entire life. I was trapped. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. These are Derek's instructions, his plans, every piece of evidence he used against Claire. He created the emails about fleeing the country. He fabricated the entire case. She handed the folder to the bailiff, who delivered it to Judge Metz. The judge flipped through the pages. His face grew darker with each document. Is this authentic? Judge Metz asked. Every word. Vanessa met his eyes directly. I have kept copies of everything for 2 years. I knew this day would come eventually. I just was not brave enough to make it happen myself. She turned to Claire one last time. You offered me a way out when everyone else saw me as a villain. You saw me as a person, and that gave me the courage to finally tell the truth. Claire felt tears streaming down her face. Not tears of anger anymore. Tears of something else. Understanding, maybe, or forgiveness. They had both been trapped by the same monster. They had both found ways to escape. Margaret called the final witness, Claire Bennett. Claire walked to the stand. She felt calm now, centered. The fear that had haunted her for months was gone. She sat in the witness chair and looked out at the courtroom. At Derek, sweating and pale, at his young lawyer already packing up his briefcase like he knew the battle was lost. At Judge Metz, who was watching her with something like respect. At the sisterhood in the gallery. Maya, tears running down her face. Ruthie, nodding slowly. Jessica Hartwell, who had fought her own battle and won. Margaret approached the stand. Mrs. Bennett, the petitioner, has claimed repeatedly that you are financially unstable, that you hid assets, that you are a fraud. Claire nodded. He has. Would you like to respond to those claims? Claire took a deep breath. I did hide something from Derek, but it was not fraud, it was survival. She looked at her husband. When I met Derek, I was 26 years old. I had just started my career in marketing. He was charming, brilliant. I fell in love with the man I thought he was. Her voice was steady now. For the first 2 years, I supported us both. I worked 2 jobs while he built his company. I typed his business plans at 2 in the morning. I held him when he cried after his first bankruptcy. I believed in him when no one else did. She paused. Then he succeeded, and I realized that he did not love me. He loved what I did for him. He loved having someone to control. So I started building something of my own, not to deceive him, to survive him. She looked at the judge. Lumina Strategies was incorporated 1 month before we got married, in my maiden name. It is legally separate property. I built it with my own skills, my own contacts, my own sleepless nights. Derek knew about it. He bragged about it to his investors. He called it my little consulting project and promised them access to my network. Claire's voice hardened. He only pretended I was broke when he wanted to humiliate me. When he wanted to convince a judge that I was worthless. When he wanted to take my daughter away. She stood up in the witness stand. I was never worthless. Her voice rang through the courtroom. I was the one who typed his business plan at 2 in the morning while he slept. I was the one who paid the rent for 3 years while he found himself. I was the one who built a nearly billion-dollar company while he took credit for my ideas. She looked at Derek directly. I did not hide because I was ashamed. I hid because I knew you would try to take it, just like you tried to take everything else. Derek was on his feet now. This is a conspiracy, he screamed. She is manipulating everyone. That company is mine. I supported her while she built it. Judge Metz banged his gavel. Mr. Bennett, sit down. You do not understand. Derek's voice cracked with desperation. I made her. She was nothing before me. Nothing. The courtroom went silent. Claire looked at the man she had married, the man she had loved, the man who had tried to destroy her, and she said the words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. You thought silence was weakness. It was not. It was patience. She paused, and my patience just ran out. Judge Metz called a brief recess. When he returned, his face was set in stone, the face of a man who had seen injustice and was about to correct it. Based on the evidence presented and the testimony heard in this court, I am issuing the following rulings. He read from his notes. All previous custody orders are vacated. Full physical and legal custody of the minor child is granted to the respondent, Claire Bennett, effective immediately. Claire felt her heart stop. The petitioner's visitation rights are suspended pending criminal investigation into witness tampering, perjury, and fabrication of evidence. Derek's lawyer started to object. Judge Metz silenced him with a look. The respondent's financial assets, including her ownership of Lumina Strategies, are confirmed as separate property. There is no basis for the petitioner's claims of hidden marital assets. He paused, looking directly at Derek. The petitioner is ordered to pay the respondent's legal fees in full. The amount will be determined following submission of itemized costs. He turned to Claire. Mrs. Bennett, I have seen many cases in my 30 years on this bench. I have seen good people destroyed by bad systems. But I have rarely seen someone fight as hard as you have, or maintain their integrity in the face of such overwhelming opposition. You should be proud. He banged his gavel. Court is dismissed. But it was not over yet. The doors opened. 2 FBI agents walked into the courtroom. Derek looked up, confused. His lawyer stepped away from him, literally distancing himself from what was about to happen. Derek Bennett. The lead agent's voice echoed through the silent room. You are under arrest for wire fraud, witness tampering, perjury, and making false statements to federal agents. You have the right to remain silent. The cameras caught everything. Derek in handcuffs, his $5,000 suit rumpled and stained with sweat, his face twisted in disbelief as the agents read him his rights, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, no words coming out. He looked at Claire one last time. She did not look back. Claire walked out of the courthouse into the afternoon sun. The sky was impossibly blue. The air smelled like spring. The reporters shouted questions, but Claire did not hear them. She only heard one voice. Mommy, Lily was standing at the bottom of the courthouse steps. Maya had brought her, had driven to wherever they were keeping her and brought her to the courthouse, knowing, believing, that today would be the day they finally won. Claire ran down the steps. She dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into her arms. They held each other for a long time. Claire memorized every detail. The smell of strawberry shampoo, the warmth of her little body, the sound of her breathing. Mommy, you came back. Lily's voice was muffled against Claire's shoulder. You promised and you came back. I will always come back for you, baby. Always. Some victories are quiet. They are not the roar of a crowd or the bang of a gavel. They are the feeling of a small hand in yours, the smell of your child's hair, the warmth of finally being home. 6 months later, Claire stood on a beach in California watching Lily chase seagulls across the sand. Her daughter was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh that comes from deep in the belly, pure and unself-conscious and free. The cast was long gone. The nightmares had mostly stopped. She was starting to remember what normal felt like. Maya sat nearby in a beach chair, watching her own kids attempt to build a sandcastle that kept collapsing in the tide. Ruthie dozed under an umbrella, a paperback novel open on her lap. She had earned this rest. They all had. Claire's phone buzzes, Lumina Strategies, Q3 revenue, $312 million. She smiled and put the phone away. It could wait. Everything could wait. Except this. Except now. Except the feeling of sand between her toes and the sound of her daughter's laughter on the wind. Lily came running back, waving something in her hand. "Mommy, look, I found a newspaper." Claire took it. The paper was damp and sandy, probably washed up from some beach trash can, but the headline was still visible. Bennett Media files for bankruptcy. Former CEO Derek Bennett sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. There was a photograph, Derek in an orange jumpsuit being led into a federal prison. His hair was shorter. His face was gaunt. He looked like a man who had finally realized that money could not buy everything. Claire studied the photograph for a moment. Then she used the newspaper to wrap up the sandwiches. Maya wandered over, watching Claire toss the wrapped sandwiches into the cooler. "You know what is funny?" Maya said, shielding her eyes from the sun. "He always said you were the one who could not survive without him." Claire looked at her daughter, splashing in the waves, at her sister, loyal and fierce, at Ruthie, the mentor who had taught her how to fight, at Jessica Hartwell, who had driven down for the weekend and was currently attempting to teach Lily how to build a sand mermaid, her sisterhood, her village, her family. He was half right, Claire smiled. I could not survive with him. Without him, I am thriving. They laughed together. It felt good to laugh. It felt good to be alive. 1 month later, Claire stood in the lobby of Lumina Strategies' new headquarters. The building was beautiful. Glass and steel and light. A monument to everything she had built with her own hands, her own mind, her own relentless determination. But the thing that made her proudest was not the building. It was the nameplate on her office door. Claire Bennett, CEO. And underneath it, taped at child height, was a drawing in purple crayon. "My mommy is a superhero." Claire touched the paper gently, tracing the stick figure with its wild hair and enormous smile. Lily had drawn it the day after the trial ended. She had used every color in her crayon box. She had spent an hour getting the cape just right. "This is you, Mommy," she had said, "the superhero who saves herself." Claire had cried, happy tears, grateful tears, the tears of a woman who had finally won. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the pain, the betrayal, the moments when she wanted to give up, the sisters who had carried her when she could not walk, the strangers who had become allies, the enemies who had become friends. She thought about what she would tell Lily someday when she was old enough to understand. She would tell her that life is not fair, that bad things happen to good people, that sometimes the system fails and the villains win and the heroes fall. But she would also tell her this, that you can always get back up, that there is strength in sisterhood, that the truth eventually always comes out, that the most powerful thing a woman can be is brave. They say the courtroom is where the truth comes out, but here is what they do not tell you. The truth does not need a courtroom. It needs courage. And sometimes the most powerful legacy is not money or revenge. It is showing your daughter that she can be anything she wants to be. If there is one thing Claire's story taught us, it is this: document everything, build your village, and never ever let someone else define your worth. The power was always inside you. Sometimes it just takes a battle to find it. If this story moved you, if you saw yourself in Claire, hit that subscribe button, because every week we bring you stories of women who refuse to be underestimated, women who turn their pain into power, and men who learn too late That karma has no expiration date. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me about the moment you decided to stop being a victim and start being a warrior. I read every single one. And remember, you are stronger than you think. You are braver than you believe. And you are never, ever alone. I will see you in the next one.